Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. My name is Julian, and today we are going to be talking about keeper leagues and what players you should seriously consider keeping in these leagues. Before we get started, guys, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I would really appreciate it if you also followed me on Twitter at Fantasy Tipped. Without further ado, guys, let's jump into my tips. So generally in keepers leagues, you can keep players based on where you drafted them in the previous season. So for example, if you drafted Taylor Hall in the 4th round, you can keep him for a 3rd round pick, 1 pick above. Now Taylor Hall is a pretty bad example because I wouldn't necessarily recommend keeping him because you don't really know where he's going to end up next year. He probably would like to stay in Boston, but we'll see if they have the cap space to make that happen. Now, there are only one type of player that I would really consider keeping, and that's the kind of player that really exceeded expectations this year. Guys like Jason Robertson is the most obvious example. He came out of nowhere. Nobody thought he was going to do anything this year, and he might win the Calder Trophy this year. So guys like that you didn't even probably draft, you probably picked up later on, guys like that, those are guys that you're going to want to keep because in a lot of leagues, you only have to give up a 10th round pick, and he's worth that for sure. Players like JT Miller, on the other hand, underperformed this year, and he did not produce up to where people were drafting him this year, so he's definitely not a guy that I would consider keeping. Same thing with guys like Svechnikov that produced pretty much where they were expected to be drafted. There's no reason to keep Svechnikov because you're going to be able to draft him at the exact same spot next year, and you're not going to want to pay a 1st round pick for him. So now I'm going to give you a list of players that I think really exceeded expectations this year and are definitely worth giving a 9th or 10th rounder. First and second on the list, guys, are Joe Pavelski and Jason Robertson. Pavelski ended up the 14th best player in my league, and Robertson ended up the 77th best player in my league after a pretty rough start. So these guys are guys that you absolutely have to keep. Pavelski is getting older, I understand, but he was the 14th best player in the league. With that kind of upside, and you're paying a 10th round pick for that, you absolutely have to do it. Same thing with Jason Robertson. He is super young, and he'll only get better and better. I absolutely think Robertson is also worth a 9th or 10th round pick. Next is Carter Verhaeghe, and the same thing goes for him. He ended up with 36 points in 43 games, and that was good for 107th best in my league, and he would have been a lot higher if he hadn't got injured for the last few weeks of the season. Verhaeghe is someone you're going to want to protect as well. Next is Jacob Chikrin, Arizona Coyotes. He finished with 41 points in 56 games, and he ended up 33 overall in my league. And at the beginning of the season, he was ranked 286th overall, guys, which means you're going to be able to get him for just a 10th round pick in all likelihood, which is insane value. You absolutely have to protect this guy. Nobody expected him to break out like he did this season, but this dude is an absolute stud, and he should be sticking around if you have him on your team. Next is Darnell Nurse, Edmonton Oilers. He was originally ranked 162 overall at the beginning of the season, and he ended up 26th in my league. The dude had an unreal season, and he really showed how good this guy can be. And he wasn't even top power play for the majority of the season. That's just how good this dude is. He's someone that you absolutely have to protect. If you are in a 16 or bigger team league, you're probably going to have to give up a bigger than 10th round draft pick. But if you are in a 12-14 team league, you should be able to get away with only giving up a 10th round pick for him. And either way, it's worth giving up that pick for Darnell Nurse. Next is Mackenzie Weegar, Florida Panthers. And this was one of the most surprising developments for me out of everyone that I'm going to be showing you on this list. The dude finished with 36 points in 54 games, which was good enough for 70th in my league. He was originally ranked almost 400th. So this dude really exceeded all expectations, and he's really good defensively. Like, almost any offensive chance that any team has, Weegar shuts it down. The dude is just insanely good. If you watch him play, he's crazy. I did not know he was this good until this season. But he's also got some offensive potential as well. With Ekblad coming back next year, that might be diminished a tiny bit, but he is Ekblad's defensive partner, so I don't even see that happening. Weegar is someone that you absolutely have to protect. 10th round pick, no problem at all for Mackenzie Weegar. Another guy that you're going to want to protect is Nedeljkovic, Carolina Hurricanes, because he was originally ranked almost 400th himself, but he passed Mrazek and Reimer on the depth chart. He's the #1 goalie in Carolina. he's actually playing all the playoff games right now. Nobody thought that would happen. I thought Mrazek would play the playoffs games, but if they're trusting him for the playoffs, he is the #1 guy in Carolina, and you absolutely should protect him. It's a very easy goalie for a 10th round pick. Next is Cam Talbot, Minnesota Wild. He ended up with a pretty good season this year. He's a very good goalie. He did very, very well. He ended up 65 overall in my league and was originally ranked over 200. So even in a 20-man league, he was picked above the 10th round, which is pretty crazy considering how well Minnesota did this year and how many starts that Talbot got himself. He did not really split much at all when he was healthy. So guys, it's a no-brainer. You're going to want to keep Talbot for a 10th round pick or whatever you have to give up for him. Same thing goes for his teammate, Kirill Kaprizov. He finished 34th overall in my league and was ranked originally 158th. That's pretty good value, guys, and he's only going to get better and better. He probably will win the Calder. It's either going to be him or Robertson, and he's going to get better and better. So I understand that in very, very big leagues, you're going to have to give up more than a 10th round pick. You're probably going to have to give up an 8th or a 9th, but it's definitely worth it for Kirill Kaprizov. Next is Philip Grubauer, Colorado Avalanche, and he had a crazy year this year. Francouz just happened to be out the entire season, so this dude was basically starting every single game for the best team in the entire league, which made him such a steal. He finished 15th overall in my league and would have finished higher if he hadn't gotten injured for a little bit there. He was originally ranked 105th, and he actually fell in a lot of drafts because people thought Francouz was going to be the starter this year, which is crazy, looking back at that, but if he fell to you in like the 11th round or the 10th round, he fell to me in the 11th round. So if he fell that deep for you guys, giving up a 10th round for Philip Grubauer is almost laughable. Now, if you have to pay 7th or 8th or 9th round for Philip Grubauer or even a 6th round pick, I would do it. The dude showed how good he is this season, and he should be able to replicate it. He might get a little bit less starts next year, but he should have no problem putting up the wins in Colorado. Next is UC Saros, Nashville Predators, and he was originally ranked 125th. So if you were to protect him, you're probably going to have to give up somewhere between a 7th and a 10th round pick, depending on the size of your league. Either way, guys, you're going to want to protect this guy. UC Saros showed that he could be the best goalie in the league. Towards the end of the season, it was undisputed. He was the best goalie in the league. He was insane. He had such a weak start to the season, and then once he came back from that injury, the dude just balled out. It's crazy. Anyway, Saros, very easy to protect. I don't care what you have to give up for him. You're going to want to protect UC Saros. Next is Max Pacioretty, Vegas Golden Knights. Ended up 17th overall. Originally was ranked 29th. But I know he did fall in a good amount of leagues. To me, he fell in the 4th round. So if you did like me and got him in the 4th round, the dude's definitely worth giving up a 3rd round pick for, considering you can see he finished 17th overall. That's like early 2nd round, So if you are able to give up a 3rd round pick for Pacioretty, you're going to do it. 2nd round pick, I'd consider it as well, but don't give up a 1st round pick for Pacioretty if you drafted him in the 2nd round. Next is Alex Martinez, Vegas Golden Knights, and he was originally ranked almost 300th overall, so guys, very easy protect. 10th overall pick, the dude blocks shots like a madman and puts up a good amount of points. Super easy guy to keep on your team. Next is Thatcher Demko, and I'd gladly give up a 9th round or a 10th round or even an 8th round in deeper leagues for Thatcher Demko. The dude has showed that he is a really, really good goalie when he's on his game. He's much better than Braden Holtby. Thatcher Demko is a very easy hold for next year, and I don't mind giving up the pick for him. Next is someone who is criminally underrated every single season. That's David Perron, St. Louis Blues. Ended up 22nd overall in my league and was originally ranked 109th. Which is crazy because my league is a 12-man league, and he actually slid not to the 9th round like that number would suggest. He slid to the 12th round. So if you're like me, guys, and you drafted him 11th, 12th round, you're going to want to save David Perron. You're going to give up a 10th round draft pick for a dude who's constantly finding the net. He was the best player on St. Louis this year, and he hasn't really shown any signs of slowing down. He's gotten better as he's gotten older, so David Perron is someone that I'm definitely protecting if I'm in a keeper's league. Next is Alex DeBrincat, Chicago Blackhawks. He ended up 20th overall in my league. The dude was balling out, playing alongside Patrick Kane. He is a sniper. He is a certified, really good goal scorer. As long as he keeps playing with Patrick Kane, I don't see this dude slowing down. You're going to have to give up, depending how big your league is, somewhere between a 5th and an 8th round pick for him. But he is definitely worth it, as you can see how well he did this season. Next is Devon Taves, Colorado Avalanche. and he balled out this year. We didn't know how he was going to be utilized in Colorado after being traded from the Islanders, but he was given a lot of power play time. That Colorado second power play got a lot more time than we were expecting, and he was on it the entire season. He is definitely worth protecting, considering that you probably drafted him really late in the draft, and you only have to give up a 10th round pick for him. Next is Pavel Buchnevich, New York Rangers, and he balled out this year with 48 points in 54 games. He was basically a point-per-game player, playing alongside Mika Zibanejad, and Zibanejad only woke up like really late in the season, so had he woken up earlier, Buchnevich could have been way over 8-point-per-game player. He ended up 57th overall in my league, originally was ranked 202, so even in 20-man leagues, he was probably drafted really late. You guys can easily give up a 10th round draft pick and hold on to Buchnevich. He should have just as good of a season next year. Next is Roope Hintz, Dallas Stars, and what a lot of people don't realize is this guy was actually over a point-per-game player this year. He ended up with 43 points in 41 games, only ended up 91 overall in my league, but that's because he missed a lot of games with this lingering issue that was keeping him out every couple of games or so. Next year, I am assuming that he's going to be over that. He's going to have a lot of time to rest, to recharge, to make sure that that issue does not bother him anymore. And guys, you're only going to have to give up a 10th round pick for him. He is an absolute guy who can ball out and probably get you 80 points next year. And that's for a 10th round pick. You're going to want to protect him. It's such an easy decision. Next is Marty Necas, Carolina Hurricanes. Ended up with 41 points in 53 games, so he's pretty close to a point-per-game player himself. The dude really showed how good he can be this year. He was originally ranked not very high, so you could easily just give up 10th round pick. Marty Necas is a really good guy to have on your team next year. The dude is going to get better and better every single season. Same thing goes with his line mate, Vincent Trocheck. Ended up with 43 points in 47 games. Was basically a point per game while he was healthy this year. And this dude really rebounded from his form last year. He wasn't as great as, people thought he was going to be last year, but he really did rebound this year in a big way. And he's someone that ended up 82 overall in my league and is someone that you absolutely have to protect if you have him. Last but not least, guys, is Vitek Vanacek, Washington Capitals. Ended up 72 overall in my league and was originally basically unranked because nobody was expecting Vanacek to take the step like he did this year. The dude really balled out, and he should once again get half the starts for Washington next year, which is absolutely worth a 10th round pick. Now, that's my entire list, guys. If you have players that you're considering keeping that are not on this list, leave me a comment down below, and I will be sure to answer you if I think it's a good idea to keep that particular player. Obviously, I couldn't go over every single NHL player here. These are the guys that I really do think you should protect, though. And if you do have multiple players on this list that you would have to give up the same round pick for, let's say you have Trocheck, Necas, and Roope Hintz, and you have to give a 10th round pick for all three of them, well, is Roope Hintz worth giving an 8th round pick for because you only have one 10th round pick, right? Well, I'll comment and I'll answer you down below. So just leave your comments and I'll be sure to answer you to make sure you make all the right decisions for players that you have to keep. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and follow me on Twitter @FantasyTipped. Until next time, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.